Hey, welcome to Local Business Insider. This week I have Blair Ballin from Arizona. And you might say, hey, what are you doing with local business? And now we're in Arizona. But it's starting to get cold in Massachusetts, Blair, and already the New Englanders are complaining about how cold it is. And they're talking about maybe buying a property in Florida, but they don't like Florida. So I wanted to get an Arizona expert on, and Blair is definitely that. I had the pleasure of meeting Blair out at a conference in Los Angeles, and he is your go-to Arizona guy. So Blair, want to give us an intro, what areas you work, and tell us a little bit about the Arizona market.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. So basically, I'm located in Phoenix. More people know it by probably Scottsdale. But I cover the entire what we call Valley, which is Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, Tempe, Buckeye, Avondale, you name it. Any city that's around that area, I cover. And this is the most commonly known area or most popularly known area. But I also cover northern Arizona, and many people don't know this. But northern Arizona, where the Grand Canyon is, just south of there is a city called Flagstaff. I cover that area as well. They get a ton of snow. So, people from Massachusetts probably wouldn't be moving there, but I do cover that area. But it is important to know because if you do want to buy a primary residence here, but want to have the snow, super easy to hop on or take a 2 hour drive to be in the snow. But Phoenix is the most popular area, super desirable, and cover all those areas that I mentioned.
Okay, that's awesome. And before we got on the call, Blair and I were talking about the Andover, North Andover market, and the average three-bedroom sale, which I had to check to see where we were, is at $740,000 at around 2,000 square feet. So I asked Blair if he could give us maybe a little insight of maybe a comparable property. He did say the lots are smaller there, but if you have a second home, you probably don't want a big lot. You might be wasting money on taxes, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. So Blair, can you describe like a typical home, like maybe in that 3 bedroom range, 2000? Like a lot of homes in New England are older, so we go to the 1800s all the way to new construction. But I would say everything 30, 40 years old in Massachusetts, sometimes we would refer to as new construction. So what's a typical home? Maybe the range and the year and maybe the pricing.
Yeah, definitely. So I pulled up some lists here in some areas that I would probably say are areas that I would live in and recommend looking at on average. And of course, there's other areas too. But one of those, I pulled up something here in Glendale, which is where our football stadium is, where the Cardinals play. Um, so basically, 4 bedroom, 2,000 square feet, 8,000 square foot lot. Home was built in 2001. Taxes are $1,600 a year, and that home is 500 grand. So the lot size is definitely going to be different, smaller. Age is probably going to be newer either way. There's certainly homes in the 80s or 90s, but to go older than 1970, that's probably not going to happen. Uh, Taxes on average, I probably gave you a significantly lower one in that case, but on average, let's just say 2,500 a year. And then if there is a homeowners associations out here are fairly common. This specific house is 200 a quarter. So just call it 60 to 70 a month, which usually just covers like exterior common grounds, like maybe a common playground or park, that kind of thing.
Okay, wow. And when I hear taxes 1,600 a year, people in Massachusetts that are watching this are absolutely shell shocked unless you are up to speed on Arizona real estate. We are looking anywhere from 6,000 to 16,000 for taxes per year. We don't have a lot of HOAs. I would say that not in single families at least. If we do, it's pretty unheard of. And this is probably just a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do most people have swimming pools there? Because Massachusetts they don't, but I would think in Arizona, goodness, that you need it.
So definitely in the Phoenix area, it's more common, like in Flagstaff where there's so much snow, not too many pools up there. In Phoenix, as a rough estimate, I would say probably half of the homes have pools, but more homes that sell have pools. Just because when homes were built, not every one of them had a pool, but since then, more homes have pools, and it's extremely desirable to have it. Maintenance wise, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about pools. Yes, there's an added expense to having them. Utility wise, they probably add depending on what you do with them, and I don't recommend ever having a pool heated. I think that's ridiculous. Normally, it's done through gas heat. That raises your gas bill uh, not a good amount. Like it's really significant and not something I'd recommend. Uh, we use, me personally, my family, we use our pool in the summer. That's, I think, the best time. Fall, spring, not necessary. It adds maybe 25 to 50 bucks a month to the electric bill, so it's not a big deal. And then you have a pool company that handles it for weekly service for a total of maybe 100 bucks a month, so not a big deal there. The big expenses could be if you end up needing to replace the pool or I'm sorry, the pump or motor, which maybe that's done every 5 or 10 years. That's another 2 grand. And then if the inside of the pool surface, what we call pebble tech, which is the most common, that could add up, and that's maybe 10ish grand or so. But the reality is that doesn't happen too often, and you can look for homes with pools that are newer. But I strongly recommend it because it is hotter here in the summer. You know, it can get to the 120s. We call it a dry heat, whatever people want to refer to that as. Um, but it's super nice any time of the day, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, to hop in the pool, stay in it, relax, enjoy the clear skies where it rarely rains here. So having a pool to me isn't a must have, but it's a nice to have.
Okay, no, that's awesome, and it sounds like it would be something that people that might be relocating from Massachusetts would want. Are most of the homes ranch style, like a one-story home, or is it a mix?
It's definitely a mix, but because land is more scarce now than it has been, and when I say that, I mean over the past 20, 30 years, more builders have built 2 stories just because land was so scarce that they wanted to build up to make homes the adequate size, whatever that means to whenever they built it. That doesn't mean there aren't 1 story homes. There's plenty of them. But 2 story homes are very common, very popular. And a lot of those 2 story homes have, I shouldn't say a lot, many of them have a bedroom or the master or a master or the primary, whatever the correct term is, on the bottom floor.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, and people like that option here. That
Yes.
if they can still have the two-story home, but have the option of the bedroom on the main floor, that's definitely something a lot of people around here look for. What is the market like right now? Do you have good inventory? We're a little light on the inventory, but we're seeing multiple offers down a bit because the rates have crept up to 8%. What are you seeing in that market?
Yeah, definitely. So, before COVID, we would have said that normal inventory would be around 30,000. During COVID, it peaked at a low level or bottom peak, I guess I should say, at around 5,000. We crept up last year, then we came down, and then now we're up in the 14, 15,000-ish range. So we're about a half of where normal should be. But I think that's a little bit deceiving too, because so many homes have been bought by hedge funds, iBuyers, that kind of thing. So for those that are listening, watching, the Zillows, the Open Doors, OfferPads, I don't know what exactly is in Massachusetts from that buyer pool, but basically large investors that bought homes for rentals that don't plan to put them back up for sale. So I think that inventory will continue to be around where it is now. I'm not saying that it's normal again. It's still on the low level. It has crept up. However, some sellers right now are getting super, super motivated, and concessions are definitely higher than they have been. So if someone's looking to buy a home, I would absolutely say now is a good time from the standpoint of getting negotiations being done in your favor as a buyer. Doesn't mean prices are coming down, because they're not. But if a home's listed at 500 grand, the opportunity for a buyer to get the seller to pay closing costs or come down if it's a cash deal, significantly greater than it's been over the past 3.5 years.
Okay, that's really good information. While you were talking, I kind of jumped over to our MLS, and we're under 5,000 homes right now for single family. So just put it in perspective of what we're talking about. Um, the short-term rental option. Let's say we have someone that's interested in having a second property in Arizona, but they might say, you know what, Blair, I'm not ready to commit and move there. But I'm afraid that if I wait 2, 3, 4 years, the market might surge again. And I'm gonna, instead of paying 500, I'm gonna pay 650. Would it make sense to buy now? So can you tell us a little bit about the short-term rental market? Is there a demand for it?
Definitely. So during COVID, I mean, I know COVID still, I guess, exists out there to those that want to believe it. I'm not saying it does or doesn't, but anyway, um, there's definitely been a lot of demand for short-term rentals here, specifically in Scottsdale, specifically in what we would refer to as the luxury market, which is a million and up. Because of that, that market became super saturated. And because of that, there were also some laws changed, not prohibiting short-term rentals, but making it actually more fair to everyone. The biggest change being now you actually in Scottsdale have to register your home with the police department, because before there were all these party houses, and then issues came up, neighbors complained, police couldn't call anyone, there were problems. So um, I don't necessarily think if someone's looking to have a very good cash flow positive short-term rental in the Phoenix area, I honestly wouldn't I honestly would say I don't think it's the best time for that. I think that market has passed. However, if someone's looking for a second type home, looking to maybe live here in the future, that's looking for some type of income, I think it's fabulous for that because uh, they can get better rates, they can get better all around everything. That I think those opportunities are decent for that. Um, and then it just depends on area, price range, and what they're looking to do as far as cash flow for that, that I think could lead to a good opportunity. But there are still good opportunities for that. Some homes are being sold furnished, so they can be picked up, without having to worry about it, and then go from there. Utility wise, I know we were briefly talking on that before the call. Uh, so we obviously not obviously. So basically, you're looking at water, which is just water, sewer, trash. It's one bill, depending on the house size, whatever. Let's just say the average bill is probably $120 a month. That's what we're looking at there. Power costs completely depend on how low you want to keep your air conditioner at in the summertime. I personally have what would probably be referred to as the average type home size wise. Um, and I have a pool. My wife, daughter, and I live there, and we run uh, power quite a bit. Our power bill in the summer, maybe $300 a month at most. We have solar, so it's actually less than that, but including solar, it's about 300 a month. Solar is a potentially very good option, by the way. But anyway, you're probably looking at 300 in the summer, and then fall, spring, winter, with a pool could be as low as 100 a month, I guess. And then I don't have gas at our house. Gas is not very common in the Phoenix area. But if you do have gas bill would go up in the winter to maybe $70 a month. Summer probably 15, and that's it. So
Wow,
what is that? 400, and then I guess cable and phone, so another 150, so 550 in the summer, and then 200 to 300 other months.
that's amazing. Yeah, and if I started telling you our utility costs, you'd hang up right now. Those are condo utility prices that you're naming there, in my opinion. you
Interesting.
know yeah, I mean, between all the electric that we run, we have oil heating, we have gas heating, not a lot of electric here, but the utility costs are certainly very, very expensive. So those are definitely friendly numbers for sure. This is kind of well, actually, let me go back so I don't forget. The short term rental, just so people know, and I do own short term rental, and Blair made a good point. It may not be just a cash cow where you're like, oh, I have short term rental and I just make all this money. You might take a loss, you might break even, you might be able to write that loss off on your taxes, but don't forget, because we do pump money into the stock market and you can't see it. It's not real money. It's fake until you retire. And if you think about second homes that way and say, all right, I'm going to buy a house in Phoenix. I'm going to supplement it a bit with short-term rental. I might take a loss here or there, but long term, that house in Phoenix in 30 years, and I know Blair's been selling real estate for 30 years, but if you went back and checked Phoenix home prices 30 years ago, it would certainly blow your mind, I'm sure.
It would, and I'm close to that. I've been in the business 25 years. I bought my house around that same time. Uh, that average price that we're talking about, 450-ish here in Phoenix, the house that I bought, which was average at the time, was around I think I paid 120 for it. So maybe go back a little bit past that, so 100. So it's quadrupled. So I would say if you find the right home in the right area, so as an example, I'm a huge fan of an area, what I just call North Phoenix. It's not, if you go to a map, you're not going to see North Phoenix, but if you look at a map of Phoenix and go north, that's North Phoenix. If you look at that map, there's a chip factory, not the chips we eat, but chips for computers and stuff. I don't remember the name of the factory, but the acronym is TSMC, maybe Taiwan Semiconductor or whatever. Uh, Near that factory, I firmly believe that as it continues to be closer to development or completion, that homes around there are going to be more stable or grow at a quicker pace than other areas because it's such a phenomenal area. And not just residential, but commercial is going to grow. And because of that, investments, in my opinion, are going to be super solid, whether it's a short-term rental, second home, whatever the investment look like, even primary, that's still an investment. I think that's super solid. So if someone's looking at that, yeah, maybe the next year or two might be a little bit rougher, but after that, I'm 100% of the belief that if you have a property or a house, it's going to appreciate. And if you can hold on to it for whatever purpose or reason, that over time, it's going to help your portfolio 100% in a very large way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And think about this too. Blair said that the property value in the last 25 years has basically quadrupled. And in between, we had the greatest housing crash in the history of real estate. So think about had that not occurred. I mean, it's an amazing thing when you think like, oh, it wasn't just this amazing trajectory. We had a huge plunge in between. So it's not like pie in the sky. It is a reality. So last question, Blair, and if you have anything to add, certainly chime in. But people that are looking for a second home, the last thing they want to do is fly into Phoenix Airport and sit in traffic. What is the traffic like? Because here it takes 2 hours to get nowhere at any point in the day. It's very difficult to drive around here. What are we seeing in your area?
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so basically, Sky Harbor is our major airport, and any of the areas that I've just mentioned, discussed, I work. For the most part, we could go to the outer areas. Those are about an hour away. I wouldn't say at most, but generally speaking, I don't mean Flagstaff, that's 2 hours away. But if we're looking at where I just talked about with the TSMC factory, Scottsdale, Glendale, Chandler, Gilbert, whatever, all of those, even with traffic from Sky Harbor, are probably about a 45-minute drive at most.
Okay, that's not terrible. So I'm 20 miles north of Boston. And if you try to get over to the west side of Boston at rush hour, 7 a.m., it could take you 90 minutes. You know,
Yeah. Our roadways, they have traffic. I mean, we get a lot of what we call or refer to as snowbirds, people coming down here, during this time of year through April, spring training, all that kind of stuff. Roadways are busier, they're heavier, there is traffic. But if we're talking, let's say the furthest point that I just mentioned is, I don't know, 25 miles, we're still probably talking no more than 45 minutes in peak traffic.
okay. That's awesome. I got one final question, Blair, because I want to make sure people understand what Phoenix and the Phoenix area, Flagstaff and Stockdale have to offer. What are things that people do that they say, you know what, I have to go to Arizona for my second home because these are the things I really value? Beyond the weather, of course, the weather's tremendous, I'm sure. Right now, it's probably starting to get, out of that hot season for you and it's switching for us. But what do people really, really value there for as a second home?
So, I mean, I know it's kind of the cop-out answer, but it is the weather. Being able to just enjoy the outdoors. So whether it's hiking, biking, if you don't have a bike, fine, but going on the trails, walking outside. So for those that are from the East Coast, the Midwest, wherever, the Pacific Northwest, being able to come out here, go golfing literally from now through May, any time of day, any day, any month, being able to do whatever they want to do outside, go to the restaurant or go to a restaurant, eat outside on the patio where it's going to probably be 60 degrees or 70 at nighttime, and being able to enjoy that in flip-flops, shorts, a t-shirt, whatever, and just relax and continue to enjoy the outdoors. I mean, there's um, other stuff, I guess, would be, going to the museums that we have, walking around our downtown, whatever. It just really, in my opinion, just comes down to being outside and enjoying that this time of year through April, May.
That's awesome. And it's basically the polar opposite of what we're living with right now, where you feel like you cannot go outside. It's too cold. It's too miserable, so on and so forth. So, well, Blair, thank you for joining us. How can people reach you if they want to learn more about the real estate market and use you as a great resource?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on again. My phone number it's okay to give my number and stuff?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So my number is 480-233-6433. There's always the thought of like, what is this guy's last name? Because, it's so cool to say Ballin. So however you want to pronounce it, my website is my name, blairballin.com. So BLAIRBALLIN.com. And then you can find me on social, depending on which platform it is, either my name, Blair Ballin, or Blair Ballin Realtor, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, wherever. That's where I'm at.
Okay, awesome, Blair. Thanks for joining us. This is super informative. I'm sure people will be reaching out to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Take care.